Welcome to LMPD, Partners with You. I'm Lower Merion Commissioner Scott Zelov. I'm Vice Chair of the Police Committee, and with me today is Police Superintendent Michael McGrath. How are you today, Mike?
I'm well, Scott. Good to be with you.
Good to be here. We're going to talk today about the animal control services offered by the Lower Merion Police Department. Before we do that, we'll just take a moment to promote National Night Out. National Night Out this year is going to be Tuesday, August 9th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's at the Wynwood Shopping Center. It's a week later than normal, but it's a great family event in our community. Mike, tell us what the police role is and what the community members will find when they go to National Night Out this summer.
Well, it's a great event. Like you said, it's been around for a while now, in its third decade.
Wow.
So it actually started here in Lower Merion Township, the National Night Out Committee, which was an extension of our Community Watch group. The residents and visitors, please come out to the shopping center. There's going to be carnival rides. There's going to be community displays from a lot of different organizations, but front and center will be the police department. We'll have different pieces of our equipment there. There'll be a number of officers there for people to engage with. Any questions, or just have a casual conversation with an officer, maybe get to know the officers who are working in the area where you reside. So it's a great opportunity for those few hours on August 9th to really interact with the police officers in a nice environment and enjoy the summer night with your neighbors.
Fun for children, fun for parents, fun for community members who want to talk to members of the police department, and all the other enjoyable activities. And if you're going, please remember to bring some canned goods. And this year the recipient will be ElderNet of Lower Merion, a wonderful organization that provides services to older adults in our community.
That's another nice feature of it. Helps other people out who may need those kind of services in this day and age.
Mike, we're going to talk about the animal control services, one of the many services provided by the Lower Merion Police Department. Not every police department provides animal control services. We do here in Lower Merion Township. Tell us briefly what is the services provided.
So services for any kind of animal control issue is available 24/7, but we do have a dedicated animal warden who works typically Monday through Friday from about 7:30 in the morning till about 3:30 in the afternoon. Any other times of the day or on the weekends, holidays that you need assistance, police officers will respond to provide whatever assistance is needed. So typically what we address is calls about lost dogs, dogs running without leashes in a neighborhood, barking dog calls, deer-related issues, which we'll get into a little bit more specifically later on, and also helping residents when a dead animal is found in their neighborhood. That's generally the bulk of what the animal warden deals with.
And the animal warden, does he cover the whole township? We've got a big township, 24 square miles. Is the one warden covers the township?
He does, like I said, with assistance of the on-duty police officers. But not only do we provide it for Lower Merion Township, but we provide the same services for the borough of Narberth.
Got it. Okay, Narberth, which is located right in the middle of the township,
in the center of the township,
surrounded by Lower Merion. And it's just one animal warden in the department?
There is just the one, but again, all our officers are trained to provide animal control services, help capture dogs that might be at large, those kind of things.
So there's lots of dog owners in the township, and hopefully some of them are watching our discussion. Are dogs in Lower Merion required to be leashed?
They are not. So to be clear, the dog owner must be in control of their animal if they choose not to have it leashed. Some dogs can be walked in a neighborhood without a leash, if the owners and the dogs have that, appropriate relationship and there's ability to control them. If you don't have that, we do recommend that people do use leashes. Now, when you're talking about going to different parks, that's a different story.
Right. So, and it's about control, and it's really the judgment of the owner of the dog as to whether they, when they say to the dog, you know, come, do they respond? And if your dog doesn't respond, they need to be on a leash.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's really, that judgment is so vital to safety, because not everybody likes dogs.
Right.
Some people are afraid, and that's something that has to be respected. And plenty of people like to pet dogs, and that's wonderful. But the dog has to be controlled either by a leash or by the training that the owner has done with their dog.
Exactly, what the owner provides. And your point about some people having fear of animals. You may not know, you know, walking down the sidewalk, whether or not the person approaching has that fear or not. So unless you know people in your neighborhood and everybody's comfortable, it's probably a good idea to have them on a leash.
So dog parks. So there was a time when there were no parks in which dogs were allowed off leash in Lower Merion Township. There are some parks that are passive parks where dogs are allowed on leash. Right? If our parks have playing fields, dogs aren't allowed. But if they're passive parks, like Ashbridge Park, you can bring your dog on leash. Yeah. However, we now have 2 off-leash dog parks. Rolling Hill Park in Gladwin and West Mill Creek that's nearby, and those parks with restrictions and rules, residents and residents only are allowed to bring their dogs off leash. So let's talk about that.
Yes, and they're very popular parks.
They are.
Which in and of itself can create some issues with it, you know, different times of the day, having too many animals at the same time there. And even for us, issues with parking because they are so popular. But as you note, we have Rolling Hill Park, which also has trails, which you can have the animals off leash, certain hours. Other hours, if you're on the trail, you need to put it on a leash. But then there's also the ability to go to a dog park there where the dogs can run free. The West Mill Creek Park is a natural passive park with trails, and throughout the park you're permitted to have the dogs off leash. Again, either park always under the control of the owner.
And at West Mill Creek Park, the off leash opportunity is dawn to dusk.
Yes.
And so, but we have rules. So a resident who wants to bring their dog to one of the 2 off leash parks has to have a permit from the Parks Department, and they have to have a license from Montgomery County.
They do.
So 2 separate things from 2 different departments, one in the township and one in Montgomery County. And that's important because those are the rules that we've created, but there's a reason for those rules.
Sure, it's for everybody's safety. And it's also easy to get the license. For instance, there's registered agencies where you can acquire the license, just not through the county. And the simplest way to do it is come to the Lower Merion Police Department, come to the lobby, and you can get a dog license. As you noted, the permit side of things, that goes through the Park and Recreation Department. And if you want to utilize those 2 parks, you need to acquire the permit from our Park and Rec Department. The other thing is I'd recommend people go to their website because there's a great video on how to utilize the parks. Provides you all the guidelines, the times, the different issues, FAQs about how to use it and make it most enjoyable for those who utilize those parks.
And not only do we ask residents to follow the rules, but it's important that everybody know that the off-leash parks are only available to township residents. There are a lot of users of our off-leash parks, and non-residents shouldn't be there. And we have enforcement. Police are enforcing at times, as well as Park Patrol is enforcing. Not all the time, but enough that it's important that people follow the rules and also follow the parking rules. Only park where vehicles are permitted. So, and with all that, we're fortunate to have 2 off-leash parks in the township.
We are, and many other communities are now putting them in.
putting parks aside, let's say there's a dog running off leash in the neighborhood, down the street, in your yard, what should you do?
Yes, so if you don't recognize it, or even if you do, and you see the dog appears to be, again, running at large, perhaps even endangering kids out, on their bikes or walking in the neighborhood, please dial 911, and either the animal warden, if they're on duty, will respond, or a local officer will come out and see if we can locate the animal.
And we never say it enough. 911 is the county dispatch, and that's how Lower Merion Police and all police in the many municipalities in Montgomery County are dispatched. So a barking dog is not an emergency, but that's still
right.
The number you should call.
It is, as you just noted. It's solely to get the police service to come to a location.
Right. And so it's also dogs off running around and they shouldn't be, that are off leash, but also barking dogs.
Certainly.
Right? So
we're going to need to investigate it, see if we can locate the owner of the barking dog, talk to them about the issue, and address the problem.
thanks, Mike. This has been LMPD Partners with You. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to LMPD Partners with You. I'm Lower Merion Commissioner Scott Zelov, and I'm here with Lower Merion Police Superintendent Michael McGrath. We've been talking about the services provided by the Lower Merion Police Department for animal control and the services provided by our animal warden. Mike, what should a resident do if they think that they've had an encounter with a rabid animal?
Well, that can be a serious matter, so it is very important for the resident to contact us. Again, as we noted earlier, if the animal warden's available, he will respond and conduct the investigation. But if not, then a police officer will come out. We want to try to locate the animal that might have caused the bite, or come in contact with either your pet or a member of your family. So it's important for us to locate the animal if possible. If it is an actual bite, there is a bite report that is filled out by us and sent to the Montgomery County Department of Health for follow-up. What will occur after that is if it has to do with domestic animals, we want to check on the vaccination history of the animal and make sure they're up to date, so there's no issue regarding disease when you're dealing with a bite.
So are all pets, all domestic pets, required to be vaccinated? And of course, we're not talking about COVID vaccines. How about other vaccines?
Yes, and fortunately, when you either adopt a pet or you buy one from, breeders, most of these things are taken care of up front. But it is important when you do acquire a pet, make sure that, one, as we said before, you get the license, and two, get the vaccination done, and the initial ones, and when all the updates are required.
And if you've been bitten by an animal, what should you do?
Well, again, report it immediately. So
meaning call the police, call 911.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You want to take care of the wound if it's serious enough. Whether it means putting ice on it or wrapping it until you can have attention for the actual wound itself. But the important thing really is to make that report so we can find out whether or not there will be concern with rabies.
And if you don't make the call right away and you make it the next day, that's fine too, because the police department needs a record.
We do need the record, and we want to be able to, hopefully make sure that your health is the first priority, and we take care of that.
Speaking of health, let's talk about West Nile virus.
Yes.
It's summertime. There's concern, has been concern, past seasons about West Nile virus. What should residents be aware of, and what kind of reporting, if any, should they be providing to the police?
Yes, it was a much more serious problem years ago, but it still exists, and people shouldn't get complacent about it. So Montgomery County, again, the Department of Health tracks instances of West Nile. They'll put out alerts to different communities if they see that somebody comes in with a record showing that they've contracted West Nile. So when that happens, word's usually put out in local communities. Fortunately, in Lower Merion, we haven't had too many of those in the last several years. But the key thing for people to do really is to avoid having standing water, particularly in the summertime, anywhere on their property. Park and Recreation Department deals with that on public areas, but it's important for residents to try to make sure there isn't breeding grounds for mosquitoes where West Nile, may be able to spread because of that standing water issue.
We have a sizable deer population.
We do. In
Lower Merion Township, but we have been taking steps for many years to control that deer population. Yep. Deer versus vehicle accidents are always an issue. Mm-hmm. Deer like our landscaping, and not only our landscaping that residents maintain and pay for, but the understory in our forests and our wooded areas and our natural areas. They can destroy the plants and understory there that's very damaging to our forests. So tell us about what we're doing in the township with controlling our deer population, and what's the township doing proactively?
Yes, so it probably started 2 decades ago when people were complaining about what you just highlighted, whether it be traffic crashes involving deer, which obviously relates to people being injured in those crashes, with the situation with deer tick issues and coming down with the illness related to that. And also, as you said, the environment is impacted when there's an overpopulation of deer anywhere. So for the last 12 years, there's been a deer culling program in place. We work with the United States Department of Agriculture, the wildlife unit, where we are able to cull. We do it for about 6 days, every late fall, early winter, and early spring period of time. And over that 12-year period, 1,500 deer have been removed from the township through the culling program.
It's been a very effective program. It's an annual deer cull that is approved by a state agency, and we pay the program, the Department of Agriculture's sharpshooter, to do the deer culling, and it has helped reduce the deer population. Lyme disease is a very debilitating disease, and
it is.
Nobody wants to have to deal with that because it's very hard for even experienced physicians to help residents, anybody who contracts Lyme disease, to deal with it. And so our deer culling, how does that work, Mike? How do residents, what can you tell them to let them know that it's done safely, and the time of year and how we approach it?
So, as we know, we've been doing it for 12 years. We've had absolutely no safety-related issues that entire time period. And in fact, most people don't even realize it's taking place. It takes place in remote areas, typically public grounds, but also if you have a larger piece of property or you and your neighbors get together and you have open area, we limit it to an area of at least 5 acres for that safety zone. And what we will do is the culling takes place in the evening, typically between late night, 10 o'clock at night until 5 o'clock in the morning. Again, that's why many people don't know we're even out there. We are permitted to do it by a permit, which we have to get from the state. And they have very strict requirements for any community to have a deer culling program. So we do work with the state and with the USDA to run these safe programs. The other thing to note about this, the venison that is acquired through the program is then donated to local food banks. So there's a benefit all the way around with doing the culling program.
And what time of year does the deer culling typically occur? It's not in the summertime. It's not when it's light until 8 or 9 o'clock. It tends to be in the wintertime.
It tends to be in the winter. We run it anywhere between November and April, year to year.
And it's been effective. We have reduced the deer population. The goal is not to eliminate the deer population, but to reduce it. And it's been effective, but we're going to continue.
We have to, because first, you can't eliminate all the deer. They're part of our environment.
Right.
They're in nature, and you know, they are, again, they're out there, and we have to address that when we have too many of them. When we first did the studies, going back again 20 years ago, we found that there were about 58 deer per square mile in Lower Merion Township. That is much too high for our area. The ideal amount of deer in a suburban community is more in the 11 to 15 range. Through the culling program, we've reduced it as low as 22 per square mile. But with some restrictions on doing the permits in the last few years, it has gone up again to about 43 per square mile. But if you don't do it continuously from year to year, those numbers would just go back again up, approaching 60 per square mile.
So we haven't gotten to the level that we really need to, and in fact, the deer population has gone back up somewhat. So the culling program is it's essential that it continue every year.
It is. Again, it's for everybody's health, as you know, with Lyme disease that not only affects humans, but it can also animals can contract Lyme
Mike, is there
disease as well.
anything homeowners can do when there's animals, deer, or other wildlife that, you know, is on their property, whether it's during the day or at night when they're not observing them? What can they do?
Well, it's helpful for us to know where the deer are. So if you report it, we track it so that when the program is run, we can go to those areas where we're getting the most reports about overpopulation of deer. We also get reports of other animals throughout the township. But going back to just like with deer, let's understand wildlife is throughout the township. You know, we have a large township with a lot of open land, and between the natural corridors of the Schuylkill River and the railroad tracks traversing the entire township, it's a natural area for animals to come and go through Lower Merion Township. Unless wildlife is some way having a negative impact on you, it's just part of the environment. But if you see something you consider an issue, perhaps you see an animal that appears that it might be in distress, maybe is rabid, please report it so we can conduct an investigation.
So well said, Mike. And you know, the animal population in Lower Merion Township has actually been growing over the past several decades as the township's forests are healthier, and as people are doing a lot with landscaping, and that's part of the appeal of this community. But if there are issues, never hesitate to call the animal warden by calling the police department. We have an animal warden who provides great services, and as in so many ways, a very well-trained police department who can assist with issues. But I think it's important to say the animal warden is not going to remove healthy, live wildlife from your property.
No, that's not the role. That's not a service we can provide, and again, you have to realize where you live.
Mike, great to talk with you about the services of the animal warden and animal control in Lower Merion Township. Thank you. I'm Scott Zelov, a Lower Merion Commissioner and Vice Chair of the Police Committee. I've been speaking with Michael McGrath, who's the Superintendent of Police here in Lower Merion Township. You've been watching LMPD, Partners with You.